You're what?
Welcome to Joint Pension Oversight. Legislative Counsel Becky Wasserman is here to help us convene.
Yes, so Becky Wasserman, Legislative Counsel. I will convene the Joint Pension Oversight Committee meeting, and just a brief summary of the committee is to, I can go through the language now, or I can just turn to the first order of business of electing a chair.
I think we've all reviewed the language, so why don't we turn to the first order of business?
Great. So, so I will entertain nominations for a chair of the committee.
I would like to nominate Representative John Gannon to be chair of Joint Pension Oversight.
Okay. Are there any seconds to that nomination?
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations? Nope. So all in favor of electing Representative Gannon as chair, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Well, I will let the new chair take over for the committee then.
Would you like to help us?
Thank you, Becky. So the next order of business is to elect a vice chair. Do we have any nominations for a vice chair?
I'll nominate Lori Parrott, Senator Parrott.
And is there a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, congratulations, Corey.
Thanks.
And I think we also need to elect a clerk. Is that? I think I saw that in here. Where is it?
Do we have to?
Yes, if you go to page 2, it says that the committee shall elect a chair, vice chair, and clerk from among its members, and shall adopt the rules of procedure.
Oh.
It's in subsection D of the language.
So we have a nomination for clerk.
I don't have a subsection D.
Oh, right here.
Okay, stuck right over there. There we go.
Okay, it is kind of blends right in. Representative Fagan, are you willing to serve in that capacity?
I can do that.
If you're willing, I'll nominate you. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor of electing Representative Fagan as clerk?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, so then we have to adopt rules and procedures. I mean,
Can I move that we delay that until a future meeting? I think that,
sure.
as far as I'm concerned, we can use
Just standard committee
rules and procedures, although I haven't looked to see the differences between the House and the Senate, but I think we can probably go by House rules this biennium with a House chair, and next biennium it'll be a Senate chair, and
because it does require the chair of the joint committee to change from House to Senate or Senate to House every biennium.
Sort of like joint fiscal.
Yep. Okay, so we can move on to that. So I think the next thing is when we want to meet. Yes, Representative Copeland-Hahn.
I was going to suggest that I think it would be helpful if we set up a working meeting for sometime in the next 2 weeks, because we have had a couple of issues have come across my desk related to ideas that people wanted to see in S-286 that were not direct recommendations of the task force. And so I think it would be respectful for us to at least give people the opportunity sometime in the next couple of weeks to come and give us their ideas, so that can be sort of the basis of what we work on over the interim months, because we have, a couple of ideas that are not going to be able to be a part of 286.
I want to be clear I know that there are ideas. Obviously, the administration, we had an amendment, and my communication back was that the bill that we move forward would be reflective of the agreement, but that then after that, this committee would then deliberate other policy changes, including maybe an option that new employees might want to exercise. So is your plan to sort of set the agenda for this committee in the future, or are you altering that, what the bill would do?
No, I'm not suggesting that we alter what the bill is going to do. I'm just saying that to be ready to receive the ideas that are not going to go in the bill so that we can decide what we need to do moving forward. I mean, there are a couple of ideas that I have heard floated around that might actually require us to do some actuarial analysis in the interim, in which case we would need to engage with joint fiscal about what that budget might look like, and make sure that before we embark on any deeper analysis that we have a budget for that and have figured out how to pay for it. So I just thought it would be helpful for us to meet at least once before the end of this session so that we can be prepared to do whatever work we're going to do in the interim.
Yep. That makes sense.
So I mean, I guess the two ideas that we've heard is, having an optional defined contribution plan for new employees. And the other one is moving the magistrates, which there's approximately 5 of, from Group F to Group D. Are there any other issues that people have heard, or?
No, and we had an amendment, obviously, on the optional plan, and I've had communications to say, that we wanted to move a clean bill that was reflective of a plan to address the underfunding. The optional DC plan is not part of that, but it doesn't mean that it isn't a topic that should be considered. So that's the only one that I've heard. I hadn't heard of the magistrate, which group, move to Group D. So
I'll just note for our acknowledgement, or at least I think it's important that we acknowledge that we have an offshoot of the pension task force that has been working on creating a corrections Group G benefit, and also has been exploring a longevity incentive for state employees. That group is intending to have something ready for inclusion in S286. And I just want to flag for this group that in the event that something isn't ready and the I's aren't dotted or the T's crossed and ready for prime time, that one or the other of those could end up being something that we should look at. The Treasurer's Office says they'll be sending over the actuarial analysis and the details of the Group G proposal to us. And so I don't have any reason to think that it's not ready for prime time, but I just flag that as a that possibility.
The budget adjustment had the language about the April 15th because of the timing of the pension bill versus getting that sort of sanction. And that was part of the agreement that we would look at that as long as it met certain conditions, including not having a negative financial impact.
Right.
So would that in fact, I'm looking at that as part of the agreement, and therefore would be perhaps would be added by the House. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
If it met all those conditions we set forth?
Yep.
Okay.
We just have not heard any of the details.
Okay. Well, the first cut was just so expensive, remember?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they supposedly have agreed on a proposal, but we have not seen any of the actuarial work on either the Group G or the longevity incentive.
So your plan would be not to act on the 286 until after April 15th? to give
So,
time for that.
It's my intention that we will move the bill out by the 13th, but it has to go, of course, to our appropriations committee. We will continue to plow through all the details of the Group G, which they say is ready for us to start taking a look at. And hopefully we will be able to include that language in the bill before it leaves this committee. But if it doesn't, we will continue to work on it and make a recommendation to our appropriations committee, not unlike what you did as you.
Or you can amend it, subsequently.
Yes, yeah. So we will continue our work on both of those issues in hopes that we can get them ready for the bill. But I just wanted this oversight committee to know that in the event that one or the other of them falls off, we may need to be ready to do some work on it in the interim.
And with regard to the magistrates, is it premature to look for an analysis of the cost for that? Or is that, for the next meeting or?
It might be a little more detailed. So Chris, are you up to speed on what the population of people are?
My understanding is, for the record, Chris, joint fiscal, my understanding is there's a population of about 5 magistrates. So, I think to get an estimate on the impact would certainly require actuarial work, which has not happened yet. I feel reasonably confident that moving anybody from Group F, where they currently are, to Group D will result in an increased cost. But when you're dealing with a population of 5 members, it is a relatively de minimis impact in the big picture.
But the question, would we need to have, can the cost of that actual work get covered, or do you need more money? And who would do that? Treasurer's office?
We're nearing the end of the fiscal year, and I would have to talk to Dan and Catherine on what our ability is. I know that we have certainly exhausted the budget that was provided to us for the task force. And I would expect that kind of analysis would probably cost low tens of thousands of dollars.
So the question really would be, can that be accommodated in the FY23 budget?
Right.
And I would say, without speaking to the treasurer or the actuaries, I would expect that kind of analysis would cost somewhere in the vicinity of $20,000 to $25,000 and take a few weeks. Might be less.
But we can look. The treasurer has been doing the work on the Group G with the actuaries on her own cost.
I know, that's what I'm getting at is if we actually have to pony up some money to fund it, I've got to do it in the budget. And my goal is to move the budget out Friday, next Friday. That's why I'm asking the question.
I think this is the kind of expense that is of a magnitude that it can be managed until being.
I would think so. Okay, all right. But I didn't want to assume it because.
I went ahead and assumed it, but.
Well, you can stand in line. The list is getting longer and longer.
Worst thing you can do is have all that extra money, right?
Everybody seems to.
Suddenly, nobody
seems
seems to think that when you make recommendations, it diminishes it all, so.
I know. So if you're advocating for this, it's probably at the expense of something
Yeah,
else.
for sure.
So, all right.
So I think
On the money.
we can look into that. And I think the next thing is just scheduling our next meeting.
This time works for me, but mornings are tough just because I can't do daycare drop off till 7:30. So I leave St. Albans at like 7:35.
Thursdays at lunchtime or Wednesdays, I'm already booked every Wednesday, but Thursdays.
Thursday? Does that work for you, Senator Hooker?
Yep.
Okay. So
14th,
2 weeks?
Yeah.
21st
It's the 21st?
would be the 21st, 2 weeks from
Okay,
now.
all right.
Is there any other business?
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay. Second.